Thank you, ma'am, for joining us. So I just wanted to understand, what has been the impact of the pandemic on Edelweiss General Insurance, and what changes have you seen, basically?
So Deepa, just to before I talk about the impact of the pandemic, I'll just give you some context about Edelweiss General Insurance. We've just about completed 3 years of operation, and when we started out as a digital native company. So at that point of time, there weren't too many, and even now there aren't too many that are digitally native. There are companies that are adopting digital practices, but it's very different from being a digital native company where for us, it's a way of business for us. So from day one, all our processes, especially for the customer, starting with sales, has been completely digital. So given that context, when this large scale transition to work from home happened, we were actually well placed to, make this transition. And for us, it was pretty much BAU rather than BCP that it was for most companies. The only difference was that we weren't working in our offices. We were working very much the same way, but we were working from our homes. So last year wasn't really much of a disruption for us. And I think it was a validation of our digital platform. And we were able to continue business uninterrupted. We were able to continue to service our customers uninterrupted. We were able to continue to do all the things that regulatory reporting and any other requirement that the regulator may have of us. And so last year was actually a good year for us. We grew at a pretty aggressive pace. Our growth was about 8 times that of the industry. In fact, the first half was not good for the industry at all last year, because last year the industry was coming to terms with work from home. But for us, the first half was very good. And what was particularly heartening for us was that growth even came in motor. And for us, most of motor is private car. We have just launched two-wheeler and commercial vehicles, but last year most of it was private car. So we had very robust growth rate, over 45% growth rate in motor. Health, of course, health retail was a high growth area for everyone, and it was for us too. Our growth was higher. And in health retail, we actually our volume of business was higher than most of our peers because we've been focused on health from day one. If you look at the contribution of health, overall the health segment, to the business mix of companies, and especially to some of the newer companies, you will find us standing out in comparison, because we've always, right from 2018 when we launched our operations, we've always been focused on health. So for us, it's not a post-pandemic realization that COVID has happened and people are talking about health, so let's sell health. We've always had tremendous conviction in the segment of health, and we truly believe that it's underpenetrated, something that the country needs, people need, and we've always been focused on it. And both these drove growth for us, so we had a really good year last year. Even in terms of other milestones, like I would say, which are not financial milestones, but the other milestones, like we launched our first on-demand digital motor insurance product. To date, it continues to be the only digital motor insurance product in India, which pretty much allows the customer the freedom to switch off the insurance if they're not using the car. Now, that's a pretty powerful statement, because today's customer wants, customized solutions and products that completely are tailored to their needs. And this was a product that allowed them to not pay for insurance when they were not using their car. This was particularly useful last year because when we launched this product in May, there were conversations and there were questions around, why are we paying for this if we are not using it, and so on. And insurance was one of those. So we were able to create this product. This product has won us many, many awards, and that's been very gratifying. We also were able to drive the adoption for our remote video survey platform for motor. See, these tools are available for the industry, but the way a digital company is able to drive adoption is a little different, because we don't give our people any other option. It's the only option, and by driving that, we are able to push adoption. And once people adopt to this, they find that it really works for them. Customers find that it works for them. Garages find that it works for them because surveys are conducted, most of them are conducted on the same day, right? So this has been really helpful for us. Our adoption of Bolt was about 50% last year, which is very high in the industry. We also launched an open API gateway. Now, an open API gateway or open APIs are very commonplace in, the consumer tech space. But even in InsurTech, there are very few people, and in India, there is no InsurTech that has opened its APIs. Definitely not a manufacturing InsurTech. So we are the first insurer to publish our APIs on a public gateway and open our services to anyone who wants to integrate with us. And we want to create a platform which is insurance as a service. So anyone, whether you're a service provider, a customer portal, any who wants to offer insurance service to their customers, anyone can engage and use that part of our service to offer their customers. And we launched this last year, and we continue to enhance the APIs that are available there. So last year, and the one thing that pandemic helped us was, I think, being a digital company, it obviously helped that many customers and partners became open to the digital platform, and it helped us in adoption. So I would say pandemic was almost a little bit of the tailwind for us in terms of business growth and adoption of our digital platform. On the claim side, I think while processes help because we were able to, push the adoption of our digital survey platform. On the claim side, I think COVID claims was something because we were always invested in health. We were likely to be impacted by COVID claims. In fact, before, the regulator even forced us to launch COVID Rakshak and COVID Kavach, we had actually written to the regulator to allow us near 0-day coverage for any customer who buys a regular health insurance policy. So we were trying to actually, go out of the way and allow customers to get coverage from day one for COVID in our regular health insurance policy. We also reached out when we realized that a lot of customers had misgivings whether COVID was covered or not. We realized that people even who buy health insurance are so unaware of what the product covers. We actually did a proactive round of calling to all customers and said, your product covers and COVID. And in that way, we actually invited some claims. But that is our approach. We'd rather err on, getting customers to give them a better experience, to be fair to them, to be absolutely transparent, over saying that let's be a little, not non-transparent, let customers come to us, maybe some won't, maybe some will. But we'd rather, even if it means, getting more claims in the bargain, we'd rather be sure that we are proactively reaching out to customers.
But doesn't that leave you open to frauds? And if you have 0-day waiting claims, doesn't it leave you?
Of course, it does impact. And at that point of time when I think we were also learning. I wouldn't say that, we had it all figured out that, if frauds came, we would do this, we would do that. I don't think we had that. We were all learning, right? The entire world was learning about COVID. We had no idea what to expect. At that point of time, we acted based on, the kind of feedback we were getting from customers, where there was so much anxiety around, COVID, whether it was covered or not. And even when people were buying policies, they said, hey, what if I get COVID tomorrow? I'm not trying to get it. I don't have a pre-existing condition. You're not going to pay me. And therefore, we took that call. Honestly, not too many claims came in the first 30-day period, but it really reassured customers and gave them the confidence to go and buy the policy. So I think in hindsight, I think it was a good call for us. It wasn't a bad call for us. But the other point that you made, whether it opens you up, leaves you open to frauds, I think if you look at Corona Kavach and Corona Rakshak, the industry has witnessed many frauds.
Yes.
So irrespective of waiting period, there are many frauds in the industry. The industry You would have heard, because Corona Rakshak especially, where there was arbitrage possible, where you would pay like 2,000 for a policy and you could claim 2.5 lakhs by staying for just 3 days in hospital. There was fraud, and we've dealt with it. We've identified what are the signals of fraud, and we've for those signals we used to do investigation, and we were able to prove a lot of frauds. So I think apart from learning from past experience of handling health claims, because frauds have always existed, we also in the first 2-3 months figured how fraud is happening in Corona coverage in Corona Raksha. And we were able to, put in place processes that would help us catch these frauds. And we have been able to catch quite a few frauds in both these policies. Because, like I said, if there's an intent to commit fraud, there is always opportunity to do so. And we as insurers always have to be vigilant, not just in COVID times, where of course there was a peak in terms of fraud for at least reimbursement cases, I would say. But otherwise, we've always had to be vigilant in terms of fraud, and we've continued to be so.
Ma'am, in terms of business split, how do you, I mean, what's your split between motor, health, and,
Most of about 80-85% of our business is motor and health.
Okay.
And it's split pretty evenly. So most of our business, we've been focused on motor and health. And for many people, you would find in early stages for GI companies especially, you would find 70% from motor. Ours is that because from day one, we've launched health. In fact, retail health was our first product that we launched. We've been very focused on health. So we've had a fairly even 60-40, 50-50, sometimes split of motor and health. And about 10-15% comes from other products.
Okay. In terms of distribution, I wanted to ask you, for a relatively new player like you, have you built distribution differently? Because the traditional insurance industry has been very brick and mortar, and you've adopted the digital way. So do you see your distribution to be very different from the existing industry?
Yes, of course, because we've learned from the experience of other players, and we've also studied a lot and tried to understand how we could maximize the impact of a digital platform. And in the industry and generally in common parlance, digital is perceived to be the same as direct to consumer. The moment you say a digital company, that means you're selling directly to the consumer. And that is not true. That is one part of digital, that direct to consumer digital acquisition is just one part of a digital business model. And digital business model is so much more. And while in the world, we see that consumers are migrating to the digital platform, but we also see that distribution is migrating to the digital platform. And to not consider that, we thought would be minimizing the impact of a digital platform. So we have by choice said that we would not just create new digital channels, but we would also migrate, or we would also transform the existing distribution that exists in the country to digital channels, and thereby really unleash the efficiency of a digital channel. So for us, we have an omni-channel network, but it's only on digital rails. So we have agency point of sale, but only digital. Right from day one, we've said that if you want to work with us, it has to be 100% digital, right from onboarding to sales, service, everything has to be digital. Do we end up losing some partners because they are not okay? Yes, we do. And that's okay with us, because we realize that this is the differentiation that we can bring, and we have to go along that path. So one is that. The other, one is that existing distribution is completely on a digital platform. So only partners who are willing to do that come on board with us. The other is, of course, the existing digital distribution that exists in the country, both B2C and B2B2C. The third is new, new channels like the internet economy, that is coming up and which has access to a lot of consumers. We've just gone live with ClearTrip for the product for their consumers. We've gone live in Intermiles. We did a COVID product for Ola for the extended, employees like drivers. So we've been creating new alternative distribution by leveraging the internet economy, and we've got many partners in that, which brings us access to a lot of customers who we can ultimately upsell and cross-sell mainline health and motor insurance products to. For each of these channels, the product strategy is a little different because each product has its own sales behavior or its own selling approach. So for these new innovative channels, obviously we need to create new different, what is very popularly known as niche bite-sized products. So we have very customizable products in our portfolio where we can create a very interesting option for customers. But equally important is the experience we give to these partners. So for us, in terms of the experience that we give, we want to stitch it end-to-end digitally, which is why, while like in a ClearTrip, you would have that, a customer buys a cancellation inconvenience product and is able to opt in. But mostly which basically means that we give some benefit if you cancel your insurance. Mostly you would find these products where you cancel, you have to send some proof to the insurer, give some intimation, all of that. That's the usual process. In our case, we've integrated using a digital payment solution partner so that the moment the customer goes on the ClearTrip platform and cancels, the claim is triggered and it's automatically paid to the customer without the customer having to do anything. So it's not just the product, but the experience also, which has to be truly digital and therefore extremely simple, convenient, and so on. And that's what we are focusing on when we look at that set of partners. So that's been our approach to the distribution channel, so to speak.
I think that is something that that traditionally people read about insurance, making a claim and then getting the claim through. That's something that that's the perception that the industry has had. And so I think it's wonderful that this perception is being challenged, and even if digitization can make claims very simple, then it makes insurance much more appealable to everybody.
Absolutely. See, because what you're saying is so right, perception, and perception is reality. While on the inside, from the insurer's side, you talk to most of the insurers, and we did before we started our business. They said, oh, we've done so much work, we've improved our processes, this, that, and the other. But the customer's not feeling it. And honestly, a large part of that is perception. Some customer claimed something 10 years ago, and that perception is carrying through. And when we did our research, an overwhelming majority thought that insurance claims was very paper-based, very document-intensive, iterative. They keep on asking for new papers, opaque. You never know what is going on. So there was so much, I would say there's so much anxiety around the claims process. People didn't want to file claims. And that for us, Deepa, as a new player, is an opportunity. That there is so much anxiety about, service. That is our real promise to consumers. For a new player to come and say, hey, we are new, we do things differently. It's such a huge opportunity for us. And that's why right from day one again, we integrated NPS into all our processes. So we have real-time NPS now. Every customer, whether you buy or you claim or you make some kind of a service request, you'll immediately get an NPS. And we have a real-time dashboard, and I can see real-time what is my NPS today, what is my NPS in motor claims, whose NPS is low and high. So we're putting our money where our mouth is. We know the results aren't great sometimes, but we need to look at that. And we thought that we have to do that right from day one and not say that, oh, once we stabilize everything, then we'll start looking at it. No, we are looking at it from day one, and it's giving us food for thought, opportunity for improvement every day.
I wanted to talk to you about pricing, especially in health insurance. There is been a concern about the raise in premium in health, and COVID and medical inflation in general has brought about a rise in premium rates. And with the second wave and the surge of claims that insurers have seen, how do you see health, and what is the strategy that in general you follow on pricing?
See, I think insurers have to have a well-priced product for us to be able to pay claims and not uh, and to the best of our abilities. And it's a cycle, you file a product, it has its own experience, you have claims inflation, and you should be able to price that in and raise it in some marginal way at a regular frequency. The Unfortunately, currently, the cycle time for revising a price is pretty long. So I think it's 6 to 8 months almost, to figure out how to revise price. So unless it's absolutely necessary, insurers don't really do it. And for our product was launched only in 2018, and we had to file it again last year. You'd be aware that because health insurance product regulations changed, so we had to refile all our products. And as long as your pricing was within that 5%, you didn't really have to go through a very, huge process. So since our products was recently filed, we were able to do that, and we were able to manage within that 5%. But there are insurers I'm aware whose products were filed long time back and they had never repriced it. And obviously, I think in those cases, there was a fair bit of repricing that happened. But like inflation is a reality, medical inflation is also a reality, right? And somewhere we have to factor that in. Right now, I think all our pricing is age based only. Once we price, we can't change it unless we refile it. So I do think that medical health insurance pricing will have to factor some level of inflation, and companies will have to find their own way of factoring it, which is a gradual increase and not a shock to customers. And for that, we'll also have to work with the regulator to define a certain process of repricing, which is actually what would you say, which causes least amount of inconvenience to our customers. Because at the end of the day, if the customer is faced with I've heard stories of 20%, 30% price increase, it's not great for the insurer either, because you don't want to have that conversation with the customer. But probably you've not raised prices in the last 5-6 years, which is why you're doing that. As far as COVID is concerned and COVID pricing is concerned, I'm not sure that we are not looking at repricing all of our health insurance. But yes, sometimes if depending on how I experience, and we are still validating, we are still analyzing that experience, and we probably will have to think of, is there a way, if like you say, there's a maternity add-on. Let me just give an example. There's something called a maternity claim. If you opt for a maternity add-on, there's like some incremental premium that you have to pay. Maybe instead of raising the price for everything, maybe you can have some incremental premium if you want some kind of a specific thing covered. I'm not saying that is COVID, but I'm saying generally I'm in favor of a base product that is like sort of the lowest common denominator, which is simple, everyone gets it. If you want some specific coverages that you want included, it could be included as an add-on. We as a company have not yet gone down the path of repricing our policy because of COVID yet. So that's something that we've not yet done. We've not started that process, and we've not made a decision on that yet. COVID tends to be almost seasonal, peak by peak. So during the peak, there is an intense upswing, and then it comes down. We still have to complete, and the ones that were worst affected were the COVID specific policies of Corona Kavach and Corona Rakshak for us. And so we still have to see how COVID has affected the overall incidence rate for the policy over a year. So that cycle is not yet completed. We we should look at it by the end of this year. I think we'll have an answer to that. But there is no immediate plan to reprice our product.
When you look at innovation, do you look at it more from a product perspective, or do you look at it more from, the claim servicing perspective? IRDA has sandbox regulations where you can look at innovative products, but how do you see innovation?
I think I look at innovation from the consumer's point of view. What the consumer needs and what is that consumer insight that tells us that this is a problem or this is a pain point for the consumer, because there are enough today. Let's face it, there are enough today. And for me, innovation doesn't have a product or a service lens. Innovation is innovation as long as it's solving a problem for the consumer. So I think the starting point is what problem are we solving, and whether the problem is solution lies in a product innovation or a service or a process innovation is immaterial, as long as you're solving a meaningful problem for the consumer. So I think that's the starting point for me.
Also wanted to understand, you've seen a very good growth in this FY22 first quarter as well. Do you expect this year to, the growth to continue for you and for the industry?
See, the industry, the growth, I don't think it will be so easy for the industry to grow, because, the first quarter last year was pretty bad for the industry. Right, and we've grown at 13.5% on a low base, and last year we declined in the first quarter. Right, we've grown 13.5% on a low base. I think the industry is working towards robust growth, but I don't think it will be that easy. If you've seen our growth month on month, it has come down. Right, we were at high. One segment continues to grow, which is health, which continues to grow because of obvious reasons. Health growth also forms a pattern along with COVID. The moment COVID starts peaking, you have higher growth, and then it comes down. It's almost like a seasonality that is following COVID season, right? So I don't, while as an industry, I think we are really pushing for growth and we're working hard. We are definitely hopeful that growth will be much higher than last year, but it's not going to be a cakewalk for us as an industry for sure. And as far as we are concerned, we are hopeful that we will be able to deliver as robust a growth as we did last year. First quarter has been good for us, and for us, first quarter was great even last year. So for us, it's been growth on growth. So we are hopeful that we will be able to deliver another year of robust growth.
Also, I wanted to ask you about whether you're looking for any kind of capital infusion, and now the FDI limit has also gone up in insurance up to 74%. So for a capital intensive industry, how important is it, to have?
I think FDI limit going up to 74% is great for the industry. It is a capital intensive industry. It makes more capital available to fund that growth. So there are more avenues for capital, whoever wants it. So that's always great. And it's always, it gives more freedom to the industry to raise capital wherever required. So that's always great from an industry lens. As far as we are concerned, Deepya, we are 100% owned domestic. So yes, we were not even at 45. So 74% is good. I mean, it's fine. We were not even 49. Our current capital needs are completely met by Edelweiss Group. We have an internal plan and they have allocated capital to us. So as far as capital needs are concerned, we're okay. And the group has allocated capital to us.
When do you expect to break even? When do you see break even happen for Edelweiss?
Hopefully in a few years. I'm unable to give you an exact number right now, but we obviously suffice to say that we have a plan and we are on the right path to that plan, and we should be able to break even sooner than later.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for your time. If I've missed out anything and you would like to talk about it, you can go ahead.
No, no, I just want to say one thing that, I really think any effort to make insurance more, not just accessible, insurance is accessible, but it's not something people want to talk about. And because it's considered something that's very dry and boring. And if there is a way of me, and partly it's also because, the entire environment around insurance, the jargon, the processes, all of that, we are
Yes.
trying to do all of that. We are trying to
Yes.
actually make insurance far more accessible, friendly, and
Yes.
engaging and easy. So I
Yes.
think anything that helps, and this is not just for us, this is for the industry. So people are educated, people engage with more people. I feel that people don't even engage with it, so people know very or choose to know very less about it. So
Yes. It's
happy to
something that
hear.
it's not something which gives a lot of customer delight. The minute you buy
Uh,
insurance, you don't, you'd rather buy a smartphone and you feel good. But
of course, see, that's not changing. That's the
yes.
nature of the
But
category.
I
That's
think
not changing.
it's something that I mean, if people listen to it 10 times, then finally they make the call. Okay, now it's high
Because
time we
what
need
is
to.
it about a car insurance? What is it? Car insurance keeping your precious car safe, making sure you have the money without it making a big hole in your, making sure that you can keep it as bright, as shiny as you want it to be,
Yes.
right? And it's about how you make that conversation rather than what you say. And I
Yes.
think that we are attempting to not just work in it at it through back-end processes, services and product, etc. We also are attempting to change the way we interact with customers. So you will see all our conversation, our language, all of that.
Yes.
We have,
It's
and it's
different.
very
Your website also
informal.
looks very different from the other companies'
Yeah,
language.
yeah, yeah. It's very informal. We don't want it to be, yeah, we don't want it to be the usual, jargon written. In fact, in our company, we said, we will not use words like submit the documents. Who says that to a friend? We want to be a friend. We want to be approachable. So we're trying to change the language and hopefully make insurance much friendlier and easier than and more transparent than it's currently perceived to be.